Willkommen zu einer weiteren Folge des Deloitte Future Talk, dem Podcast rund um Zukunftsthemen. Mein Name ist Alexander Börsch und ich freue mich, dass ihr wieder dabei seid. Unsere heutige Folge ist etwas anders als sonst. Zum einen ist diese Folge auf Englisch, weil der Gast aus den USA kommt. Zum anderen haben wir eine Gastmoderatorin, nämlich Susanne Uhlmann, Sektorlead Pharma bei Deloitte. Der Anlass für diese Sonderausgabe ist die Handelsblatt Pharma 2026, auf der unser Gast Aditya Kudumala eine Keynote über Agentic AI in Pharma gibt. Aditya ist Deloittes Global Life Sciences and Healthcare AI Lead. Im Mittelpunkt dieser Folge steht die Frage, wie künstliche Intelligenz die Zukunft der Pharmaindustrie verändert, von der Forschung bis zur Marktreife. Wir diskutieren außerdem, wie sich die KI-Adoption in Europa entwickelt. Ebenso geht es darum, warum KI-Agenten derzeit stark an Bedeutung gewinnen und was der nächste große Entwicklungsschritt sein könnte. Ich wünsche viel Spaß bei diesem Gespräch.
Hi Aditya, great to have you here with us today.
Same here. Hi Susanne, good to see you.
I really look forward to meet you in Berlin, now at the Focus Day, Technology, AI in Pharma. So your topic, and with a discussion spanning quite wide from molecule to market. What I'm observing in the life science market is huge dynamic, and a lot happens in a few months. And new developments every time when we talk. So whenever I talk to you, you have new topics that you bring to the table that we discuss then. And therefore, really glad to have you then in Berlin. So reflecting on AI and what I'm hearing, talking to our clients here in Germany, the interest in AI is high, and in particular in agentic AI. While adoption in IT and R&D is kind of in place, in particular in research and in development, I see an increasing interest coming from enabling functions such as finance. And while they clearly say, we see the value, we assume there is massive efficiency gains that we can capture from that, they're still struggling with how to go about that. So what really works, how to start and how to get it done. And overall, the companies, different across the functions, seem to be still at the very beginning. But at the same time, if we look into tech and the tech giants, but also startups, tech is advancing at an exponential rate, and the gap between the corporate landscape and technology is getting even bigger. So given all the investments that we see in life sciences, pharma companies, in building and scaling AI capabilities, what's really happening in the industry today, and who's already applying AI successfully?
Thank you, Suzanne, for the opportunity to share my perspectives and also for sharing our perspectives at the conference next week. So I'm super excited for that, given this topic is near and dear to me. And also, I think you're spot on your observations. I think if you've asked me every 3 months or 6 months, I go through this evolution of like, not only how much of the world is changing within our industry from a tech perspective, but also from a business perspective, in terms of how things are changing based on the socio-economic, political, plus these laws and regulations changing across the board. There's an overemphasis on the opportunity for the organizations to take this from a business trends perspective and a tech trends perspective to how do they transform in this world. And AI has been a great enabler for them to really embark on that journey from a transformation perspective. So if I kind of highlight, you said broad trends that you just highlighted few areas. Let me start with the investments. If you asked me about a year ago, all companies investing in it, yes, they were. But a majority of them were investing to learn or investing in certain segments of their business or in functions of their business. And then certain companies were like, hey, how do I really empower my organization to transform or rewire in the age of AI? Fast forward, a lot more companies are starting to think through, I do believe in this AI. I do believe in the value. How do I realize this value at a faster acceleration clip? And if I do, what do I need to do that? So the existing investments has been from not so much just pilots but this conversation is moving into how do I make sure the investments that I've made in my core systems to versus the broader AI ecosystem, how did that work out? So that's the evolution that we're seeing from an investments perspective. Thinking is, if I don't invest right now, I'm not going to learn, I'm not going to transform. This is not a hype anymore. This is something that is proving out in our daily lives, right? The second thing that we're looking at is like, I would always have archetypes of companies that are very much forward-looking, innovative. They're trying to rewire their functions. About a year ago, a lot of that was focused on R&D, commercial, supply chain manufacturing, where there's a lot more value that they can accrete. But in the last, I would say about 9 months, enabling functions like finance, GBS, and all have come to the forefront, given the advancement of the Agentic AI and the ability for it to do a lot more semi-assisted autonomous activities. So enabling functions have also come to the fore right now in terms of them trying to rewire itself. And not only within the enterprise itself, but we're also seeing a lot of investments and progress being made also in the ecosystem that is supporting the pharma industries, whether it's the big tech players, whether it's the model providers, to core systems. They're also investing a lot into it, right? So we're seeing a massive amount of investments going on in an ecosystem. And then we're also seeing companies like tech bios that are AI native, drug discovery companies or AI native, pharma companies that have the ambition to become as big as the current set of players. They're also advancing a lot of innovation in the space, both from a core closed platform systems perspective, but also open source, right? And there's also a geopolitical angle to it where we are seeing the approaches that are taken in the US versus Europe versus Asia Pac, like China or other areas. There's also very different approaches people are taking, but again, with the same mindset of how do we transform the industry? It's a super exciting time. I believe the next 5 years are going to be truly, truly transformative within the life sciences industry in terms of not only how we create the new medicines, but also how we deliver to our patients and the care that's given in the ecosystem itself.
Especially the last topic, Aditya, that you mentioned, the geopolitical angle is one that's very much discussed these days in Europe. I mean, you are truly a global citizen with your roots in Asia, Belgium, Korea, in the US, now being in Europe. And you are working with pharma companies across these geographies with headquarters in different spots. So how is Europe different in this area and in adopting AI in pharma?
Until a year ago, people were still trying to understand what it would take for each of these organizations to truly do this at a global scale or at a regional, local scale, because they wanted to make sure that they are, not only the tech is the tech evolving at the pace with the regulations that are in place. So there was a disparity in terms of how the regulations were applied across different regions in the world. And there's a concentrated effort right now to see if it can make it homogeneous across the board, right? So the companies had to be cognizant of not only the availability of the tech in the different regions, because they were getting built in the US quite a bit in the beginning and rolled out slowly to the regions. That's one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is also the ambition within the companies that we see. The companies in the US, because they had early access to this tech and were able to experiment, had a little bit more insight. And the ambition was, let's go fail responsibly, not just fail fast with the mentality. So the companies that had that mentality, both in the US, Asia Pac, or Europe, pushed the envelope much faster than companies that had, hey, let me wait and watch, a fast follower type of mentality where let me see what people do with it. Let me see some proof. And then in the meantime, I'll just keep experimenting and then let me move forward. That fail fast mentality, a lot more companies in the US headquartered were able to move the needle much more faster. And the Europe was a little bit of a mixed bag in the fast follower versus lead the charge. There were a few companies in Europe too that had that fail responsibility. Let's accelerate the innovation. But now, given that they see the promise, it's changed quite drastically in the last 3 to 6 months. And the conversation is, if we need to do this at scale, what capabilities in the ecosystem do we need to have in Europe to usher this, right? Rather than getting stuck into one model or the other. And the other aspect that they have to grapple in the US is some of the advancements that are happening are much more closed system, in the sense that it's a lot more within the proprietary type of model or innovation advancement, compared to Asia, where China and others are much more investing into the open source, focused on efficiency. How do I get this at scale? So there are different approaches that different regions are taking. And the beauty of the opportunity for Europe is, how do I take the best of the worlds and apply it to the regional context of what makes sense from a Europe-based ecosystem perspective itself? That's one thing. And the second thing, I think the advantage that we see in both, I'm talking about as if Europe is in the middle, it is truly, on the US and the China side, is even though we talk about AI, but there's so many ancillary industries around it that support the growth of it, whether it's the semiconductor industry, whether it's the data centers, whether it's the energy, all that. Those investments are being made massively that helps them to create that scale that they're looking for. And I think Europe is embarking on that right now, to create that level of scale also that can be sustainable within the European context itself. So it's evolving. I think there is an emphasis on really investing and scaling quite a bit, given that you just can't rely on different geos to just support the growth of an individual country or a continent.
I really like to hear that positive perspective from you in particular on Europe, also your topic on best of both worlds, and that Europe is now really starting to look at where they can make an advantage and progress. Coming to the companies, and particular European companies. So while in the past years we saw a lot of, and colleague called it pilotitis in those companies, so one pilot after the other, the AI topic of the day seems to be now Agentic AI. It's part of all the conversations we are currently having. Why are life science companies, pharma companies, the organizations are becoming highly interested, in particular in agent capabilities? Is that the easier way for humans to work with AI?
Yeah, it is the evolution of Gen AI. The next is the agentic. And then the difference that you see between the old way, what we call is the old collaboration model, to the new one. In the old model, which is not the old, to be honest, in the Gen AI, if you ask, let's say, any of these large language models and all, you ask a question, it'll give you a response back, right? What's the weather today in Paris? And it'll say, it's 45 degrees Fahrenheit. But in the new agentic AI world, if you ask the same question, what's the weather in Paris? It'll say, what's the intent and the context? And then when you tell that the intent and context, whether you're traveling or whether you're going for a picnic or you're going to work, or whichever the case is, then it has the ability to plan and reason and create and help you with the activities of your day or of your action or of what the outcome that you're desiring to achieve. So that's the new way of collaborating. So in this new world, what Agentic has given the opportunity for us within the life sciences company. If you think of life sciences company, it's a very rich, information-centric company. Obviously, it's regulated, but also so many touch points, a huge ecosystem that we need to deal with, and the activities and the things that we need to do. In this case, the Agentic is giving them the opportunity for us, the humans, to teach the machine how to work for you. So in a sense, if you say you need to create XYZ, let's say, document, a regulatory document, then you can teach it to create that document. You can supervise it, you can own the plan, it'll create the plan, but you have a voice in it, human in the loop, in terms of how you want to get it created. Make sure that it is of true accuracy, output, everything else, ethical, all that supervision, making sure the trust is in there. While your desired outcome is to build that document, it can go about doing the different collaborations, checkpoints, working with other people or other agents to get the work done on your behalf for you. And the way it simplifies some of the way we engage in this world, a much better way to do it than before. And that's the promise, and that's the not only promise, but we're seeing that value being played out, and it's truly getting scaled up. And in this process, what's giving the ability for us to truly rewire our process or our function or our end-to-end value stream in a way where you own the experiences. You're moving to the system of experiences rather than a system of record or a system of XYZ activities that you need to do. So that's not only the potential, but we're seeing the value in the space, and that's super exciting for everyone. And that's why it's picking up really fast in the industry.
And that's a great explanation. Simplify the way how to engage and really rewiring the processes, how people work. But you also mentioned rewiring the value stream, and that's getting me to my next question. What do you see, or what is your prediction on the next big thing in pharma through AI? What we are seeing is pharma start acquiring AI companies to really get the capabilities on board. If we look at AZ and the Modella acquisition, or they invest significantly together with tech giants. And at the same time, tech companies invest themselves in the life science capabilities, like just recently announced doing drug design by AI. So would AI in this way have the potential to fundamentally change the traditional value creation model in pharma?
I would say yes. In fact, not only change the value realization model, but it's, I think, the accelerate the value realization more than change. Yes, absolutely. But more importantly, accelerate. And the promise and the potential is, what if I can cut my drug design from 5 to 6 years, drug discovery phases, to anywhere between 18 months to 3 years. It's a huge impact that we can bring to the overall ecosystem in itself, including the patients and all. And the thing goes on the development side. Trials take anywhere between 7 to 14 years. Can I cut it down 50%, right? And to do all of that, you do really need to rewire the entire ecosystem in terms of how we develop our drugs, how we identify the targets, to going through the entire drug discovery process to identify the new molecule. And then also, how do I take it through the trials and then back in the market and everything else? So there's a potential for AI to really influence not only the rewiring, but also create the net potential value realization across the board, right? And to do that, it's a lot for a company to do it by themselves, right? So a lot of companies are thinking through is, hey, what do I truly need to own and build that up to create my own moat, for lack of a better explanation, or my differentiation? Where can I partner with some of the players that you just mentioned, whether it's the native tech buyers or to the hyperscalers or the big tech or different model providers, to accelerate the journey either through a partnership model or partner, learn, see what the best fit would be. So there's lots of interesting partnerships that are coming across, like Lilly and NVIDIA to Isomorphic Labs to multiple pharma companies, to really turbocharge or rewire what I say, that individual, I would say, areas of the businesses that we see, right? And that's going to evolve more and more across the board. And it's not that one company is going to dominate, because it's so vast, the biology is so complex. Not everybody can figure out the entire ecosystem itself. So we'll see a lot of innovation happening there. We'll also see a lot of innovation happening in open source, that people are going to come together to create that acceleration that we're seeing. And also, I don't leave behind academia. Academia is still doing a ton. Academia and government research are still doing a lot of research to understand the biology. And that also needs to get accelerated and funded enough to take it to the next level. So we'll see pockets of all these ecosystems scaling in a different way, or reinventing themselves or rewiring themselves in different ways. And it's going to be super exciting to figure out for a company, where do they place their bets and how and what. And that really needs to define a very dedicated strategy for them to do that.
So again, a conversation with you where I learned more about what's going on in AI these days. So what I heard from you is investments start to pay off and work out in companies. Agentic AI is in focus because it simplifies the way to engage with AI. Europe catches up in this development in pharma in particular in AI. And finally, the capabilities really working with AI and applying it will change the way how value is created in pharma, and it might significantly change the landscape of organizations that do drug research and development in future. Is that the right observation?
Absolutely. Summarized it really well. And again, don't forget the patients in this ecosystem, right? They play a bigger role given that the access that we can provide to them in not only the entire journey that you just summarized, but also the care that can be provided out there. So that's super exciting that I would truly say AI is democratizing the way people can participate in this ecosystem and be able to contribute what they can from their perspective in a much better way than what we could do in the past. And that collective, I'm super excited and confident that there's a collective collaboration that this can do to really usher the next age of, I would say, the care and the medicine evolution that we see in the marketplace.
Excellent. And with that, Aditya, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your observations in the market and your perspective. Again, truly inspiring as always.
Again, thank you, Suzanne. Always a pleasure talking to you. And again, you and I will be at the conference, so I'm pretty sure we'll hear a lot of perspectives from the different participants, speakers and all. I'm really looking forward to learn, also share our perspectives and see if we can collectively take it to the next level.
Thank you.
Vielen Dank für dein Interesse und dass du beim heutigen Future Talk dabei warst. Hat dir die Episode gefallen? Wir freuen uns, wenn du unseren Podcast mit einer positiven Bewertung unterstützt. Und um immer auf dem Laufenden zu bleiben, vergiss nicht, unseren Podcast zu abonnieren, so verpasst du keine Folge mehr. Hast du Feedback, Fragen oder einfach Lust auf einen Austausch? Dann freue ich mich sehr über deine persönliche Nachricht. Am besten erreichst du mich über mein LinkedIn-Profil. Und ich freue mich schon darauf, dich beim nächsten Mal wieder bei uns begrüßen zu dürfen.